Hello, 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 hello. And here we are again for part two of the Republic of Plato, book one. Now we are reading book one at this moment. We are going back from we will start at the end part of page 13, so it's understandable for when I start reading. And yeah, we'll go from there. Um, The chat isn't visible at this moment for me. I do not know. I'm not sure why that is so. I will. I'll, I'm sorry about that. That was a little bit of a. I can't see the chat from here, but I'll go always to the YouTube live to check if anybody left any message in the chat. Anyways, leave a message if you're here on the chat. I'll say hello for sure at some point. But yeah, let's get to it, shall we? Let me see. Can you hear me all right? Right. Okay, let's start. Um, Thersi you are a wise man, therefore, Th Thrasymachus, said I, for you knew well that if you asked one, how many is 12, and when you ask, should tell him when you ask, should tell him before, you are not, friend, to tell me that 12 is twice 6, nor that it is 3 times 4, not that it is 4 times 3, for I will not admit if you trifle in such a manner. I fancy it is plain to you that no man should answer one asking in such a way, but if he should say to you, Wonderful, Thrasymachus, how do you mean? May I answer in none of those ways you have told me, not even though the real and true answer happen to be one of them, but I am to say something else than the truth? How so is it you mean? What would you say to him in answer to these things? If they are alike, I should give an answer, but how are they alike? Nothing hinders it, said I, but though they were not alike, but should appear so to him who asked, would he the less readily answer what appeared to him, whether we forbade him or not? And will you do so now? Said he. Will you say in answer some of these things which I forbid you to say? I should not wonder if I did, said I, if it should appear so to me on inquiry. What then, said he, if I shall show you another and better answer besides all these about justice? What will you deserve to suffer? What else, said I, but what is proper for the ignorant to suffer, and it is proper for them to learn somewhere from a wise man. I shall therefore deserve to suffer this. You are pleasant now, said he, but together with the learning do you pay money likewise? Shall it not be after I have got it? Said I. There is for you, said Glauco, So as there is for you, said Glauco. So as to money, Thrasymachus, say on, for all of us will advance for Socrates. I truly imagine so, said he, that Socrates may go on in his wonted manner, not answer himself, but when another, sorry, I lost myself. But when another answers, he may take up the discourse and confute. How, said I, most excellent Thrasymachus, can one answer? In the first place, when he neither knows nor says he knows, and then, if he have any opinion about these matters, he is forbid by no mean man to advance any of his opinions. But it is more reasonable what you speak. As you say, you know and can tell us. But do not incline then, but oblige me in answering, and do not grudge to instruct Glauco here and the rest of the company. When I had said this, both Glauco and the rest of the company retreated, not to decline it, entreated him not to decline it, and Thrasymachus appeared plainly desirous to speak, in order to gain applause, reckoning he had a very fine answer to make, yet pretended to be earnest that I should be the answerer. But at last he agreed, and then this he said he is the wisdom of Socrates. Unwilling himself to teach, he goes about learning from others and gives no thanks to it for it. That indeed I learn from others, said I, Thrasymachus. That indeed I learn from others, said I. Thrasymachus is true. But in saying that I do not give thanks for it, you are mistaken. I pay as much as I am able, and I am only able to commend them for money I have not. And how readily I do this, when one appears to me to speak well, you shall perfectly know this moment, when you make an answer. For I imagine you are to speak well. Here then, said he, for what I have, what I, for I say that what is just is not, sorry. Here then, said he, for what I say that what is just is nothing else but the advantage of the more powerful. But not, why do not you commend? You are unwilling. Let me learn first, said I, what you say, for as yet I do not understand it. The advantage of the more powerful, you say, is what is just. What all is this you say now, Thrasymachus? For you certainly do not mean such a thing as this. Oh God. There's sorry. If Polydamas the wrestler be more powerful than we, and if beef be beneficial for his body, that is food, that this food is likewise both just as advantageous for us who are weaker than he. You are most impudent, Socrates, and lay hold of my speech on that side where you may do it the greatest hurt. By no means, most excellent Thrasymachus, said I, but tell more plainly what is your meaning. Do not you then know, said he, that with reference to states, some are tyrannical, others democratic, and others aristocratical? Aristocratical? Why are they not? Why are they not? And is not the governing part in each state the more powerful? Certainly. And every government makes laws for its own advantage. A democracy, democratic laws, a tyranny, tyrannic, and others the same way. And when they have made them, they give out that to be just for the governed which is advantageous for themselves, and they punish the transgressor of this as one acting contrary both to law and justice. This then, this then, most excellent Socrates, is what I say, that in all states what is just and what is advantageous for the established government are the same. It hath power. It hath the power. So that it appears to him who reasons rightly that in all cases what is the advantage of the more powerful, the same is just. Now I have learned, said I, what you say, but whether it be true or not, I shall endeavour to learn. What is advantageous, then, Thrasymachus? You yourself have affirmed to be likewise just, though you forbid me to give this answer. But indeed you have added it, that you have added to it that of the more powerful. Probably, said he, but a small addition. It is not yet manifest whether it is small or great, but it is manifest that is to be considered, whether you speak the truth, since I too acknowledge that what is just is somewhat that is advantageous. But you add to it, and say that it is that of the more powerful. This I do not know, but it is to be considered. Consider then, said he. That, said I, shall be done. And tell me, do not you say that it is just to obey the governors? I say so. Whether are the governors in several states infallible, or are they capable of erring? Certainly, said he, they are liable to error. They do they not then, when they attempt to make laws, make some of them right and some of them not right? I imagine so. To make them right, is it not to make them advantageous for themselves, and to make them not right disadvantageous? Or what is it you mean? Entirely so. Entirely so. And what they enact is to observe by the governed, and this is what is just? Why not? It is then, according to your reasoning, not only just to do what is advantageous for the more powerful, but also to do the contrary, what is not advantageous. What do you say? Replied he. The same I imagine that you say yourself. But let us consider better. We have not acknowledged that governors, in enjoying the governed, do not certain the governed to do certain things, may sometimes mistake what is best for themselves, and that what the governors enjoy is just for the governed to do. What have not these things been acknowledged? I think so, said he. Think also then, said I, that you have acknowledged that it is just to do what is disadvantageous to the governors and the more powerful, since the governors unwillingly enjoin what is ill for themselves, and you say that it is just for the others to do what these enjoin. Must it not, then, most wise Thrasymachus, necessarily happen that by this means it may be just to do the contrary of what you say? For that which is disadvantageous of the more powerful is sometimes enjoined the inferiors to do. Yes, indeed, Socrates, said Polemarchus, these things are most manifest. Yes, if you bear him witness, said Cletypho. 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 What need, said I, of a witness? For Thrasymachus himself acknowledges that governors do indeed sometimes enjoin what is ill for themselves, but what is just for the governed to do these things. For it hath, Polemarchus, been established by Thrasymachus to be just to do what is enjoined by the governors, and he hath likewise, Philosopher, established that to be just, which is at the advantage of the more powerful. And having established both these things, he hath acknowledged likewise that the more powerful sometimes enjoin the inferiors, and governed to do so what is disadvantageous for themselves. And from these concessions, the advantage of the more powerful can no more be just than the disadvantaged. Sorry, just okay. But, said Cleithyphon, he said the advantage of the more powerful. That is what the more powerful judged to be advantageous to himself. That is was that this was to be done by the inferior, and this he established as just. But, said Polemarchus, it was not said so. There is no difference, Polemarchus, said I. But if Thrasymachus says so now, we shall allow him to do it. And tell me, Thrasymachus, was this what you meant to say was just, the advantage of the more powerful, such as appeared so to do more powerful, whether it is advantageous or not? Shall we say that you spoke thus? By no means, said he. For do you imagine I call him the more powerful, who misjudgeth at the time he misjudgeth? I imagine, said I, you said this when you acknowledged that rulers were not infallible, but that in some things they even erred. You are you are you are a sycophant, said he, in reasoning Socrates. For do you now call him who mistakes about management of the sick a physician, as to very well as to that very thing in which he mistakes? Or him who mistakes in reasoning as a reasoner when he errs, and with reference to the very error? But I imagine we say in common language that the physician erred, that the reasoner erred, and the grammarian and the grammarian. Thus, however, I imagine that each of these, as far as he is what we call him, errors, not at any time, so that, according to accurate discourse, since you discourse accurately, none of the artists errors. For he who errs by departing from science, and this he is no artist. So that no artist or wise man or governor errs, in so far as he is a governor. Yet any one may say the physician erred, the governor erred. I imagine then it was in this way I now answered you. But the most accurate answer is this, that the governor, in as far as he is governor, errs not, and as he does not err, he enacts that which is left for himself, and this is to be observed by the governed. So that what I said from the beginning I maintain is just, to do what is advantageous of the more powerful. Forgive me, I'm just going to, I'll be 1 second. Okay. Nothing going on in the chat. Okay, so where was we? Where were we? Okay. Be it so, said I, Thrasymachus. Seem I to act the sycophant? Certainly, indeed, said he. For you imagine that I spoke as I did insidiously, and to abuse you. I know it well, said he, but you shall gain nothing by it. For whether you abuse me in a concealed manner or otherwise, you shall not be able to overcome me by your reasoning. I shall not attempt it, said I, happy Thrasymachus, but that nothing of this kind may happen to us again. Define whether you speak of a governor and the more powerful according to common talk, or according to accurate discourse. As you now said, whose advantage, as he is the more powerful, it shall be just for the inferior to observe. I shall speak of him, said he, who, in the most accurate discourse, is governor. For this, now, abuse me and act the sycophant, if you are able. I do not shun you, but you cannot do it. Do you imagine me, said I, to be so mad as to attempt to shave a lion and act the sycophant with Thrasymachus? You have not now, you have now, said he, attempted it, but with no effect. Enough, said I, of this. But tell me, with reference to him, who accurately speaking, is a physician, whom you mentioned, whether he is greater of money, or one who taketh care of the sick, and speak of him who is really a physician. One who taketh care, said he, of the sick. But what of the pilot? Who is a pilot truly? Whether is he the governor or of the sailors, or a sailor? The governor of the sailors. That, I imagine, is not to be minded that he sails in the ship, nor that he is called a sailor. For it is not for his sailing that he is called pilot, but for his art and his governing the sailors. True, said he. Is there not, then, something advantageous to each of these? Certainly. And is it not for this purpose, said I, that art hath had its rise to seek out and afford to each thing its advantage? For its purpose, said he. Is there now anything else advantageous to each of the arts, but to be most perfect possible? How ask you this? As if you asked me, said I, whether it sufficed the body to be body, or if it stood in need of anything. I would say that it stood in need of something else. For this reason is the medicinal art invented, because the body is infirm and is not sufficient for itself in such a state. In order, therefore, to afford it things for its advantage, for this purpose art hath been provided. Do I seem to you, said I, to say right or not in speaking in this manner? Right, said he. But what now? This medicinal art itself, or any other, is it imperfect so long as it is wanting in virtue, in certain virtue, as the eyes when they want seeing and the ears hearing? And for these reasons have they need of a certain art to perceive and afford them what is advantageous for these purposes? And is there still in art itself some imperfection? And does every art stand in need of another art to perceive what is advantageous to it? And this stand in need of another in like manner, and so on to infinity? Or shall each art per- perceive what is advantageous to himself, to itself, and stand in need neither of itself nor of another to perceive what is for its advantage, with reference to its own imperfection? For there is no imperfection nor error in any art, nor does it belong to it, nor does it belong to it to seek what is advantageous to anything, but to that of which it is art, the art. But it is itself infallible, pure, being in the right, so long as each art is accurate whole, whatever it is. And consider now, according to that accurate discourse, whether it be thus or otherwise. Thus, said he, it appears. The medicinal art, then, said I, does not consider what is advantageous to the medicinal art, but to the body. Yes, said he, nor the art of managing horses, what is advantageous for the art, but what is advantageous for the horses. Nor does any other art consider what is advantageous for itself, for it hath no need, but what is advantageous for that of which it is the art. So replied he, it appears. So replied he, it appears. But Thrasymachus, the arts rule and govern that of which they are the arts. He yielded this, but with great difficulty. No science, then, considers the advantageous of the more powerful, nor enjoins it, but that of the inferior, and of what is governed. He consented to these things at last, though he attempted to contend about them, but afterwards he consented. Why then, said I, no physician, so far as he is a physician, considers what is advantageous for the physician, nor enjoins it, but what is advantageous for the sick? For it hath been agreed that the accurate physician is one who taketh care of the sick bodies, and not a masser of wealth, and not an amasser of wealth. Hath it not been agreed? He assented. And likewise that the accurate pilot is the governor of the sailors, and not the governor of the sailors, and not a sailor. It hath been agreed. Such a pilot, then, and governor will not consider and enjoin what is the advantage of the pilot, but what is advantageous to the sailor and the governed. He consented with difficulty. Nor yet, Thrasymachus, said I, does any other in any government, as far as he is a governor, consider or enjoin his own advantage, but that of the governed, and of those to whom he ministers, and with an eye to this, and to what is advantageous and suitable to this, he both says what he says, and does what he does. Um, I'll be very quickly, I'm just going to do something very fast. back to it. When we were at this part of the discourse, and it was evident to all definition of what was stood now, on the contrary side, Thrasymachus, instead of making the answer, uh, ins- when, sorry, when we were at this part of the discourse, and it was evident to all the definition of what was just stood now, on the contrary side, Thrasymachus, instead of making answer, tell me, said he, Socrates, have you a nurse? What, said I, ought you not rather to answer than ask such things? Because, said he, she neglects you when your nose is stuffed, and does not wipe it when it needs it. You who understand neither what is meant by sheep nor by shepherd. For what now is all this, said I, because you think that shepherds and nearthirds ought to consider the good of the sheep or oxen, to fatten them, and to minister them, having in their eye something other than their master's good and their own. And you fancy that those who govern in cities, those who govern truly, are somehow otherwise affected towards the governed than one is towards the sheep, and that they are attentive day and night to somewhat else than this. How attentive, how they shall be gainers themselves. And so far are you from the notion of just and of justice, and of unjust and injustice, that you do not know that both justice and just are in reality a foreign good, that the advantage of the more powerful and of the governor, but not but properly the hurt of the subject and inferior, and injustice is the contrary, and the justice governs such as are truly simple and just, and the governed do what is for the governor's advantage, he being more powerful and ministering to him promote his happiness, but by no means their own. You must thus consider it most simple, Socrates, that on all occasions the just man gets less than the unjust. First, in co-partnerships with one another, where the one joins in company with the other, you never can find one on the disinvolving of the company. The just man gets more than the unjust, but less. Then, in civil affairs, where there are taxes to be paid from equal substance, the just man pays more, the others less. But when there is anything to be gained, the one gains nothing, and other a great deal. For when each of them governs in any public magistracy, this, if no other loss, befalls the just man, that his domestic affairs, at least, are in worse situation through his neglect, and that he gains nothing from the public, because he is just. Add to this, that he comes to be hated by his domestics and acquaintance, when at no time he will serve them beyond what is just. But all these things are quite otherwise with the unjust, such such an one. I mean, I mean, I mean, as I now mentioned, one who has greatly in his power to become rich. Consider him, then, if you would judge, how much more it is for his private advantage to be unjust than just, and you will most easily understand it if you come to the most finished injustice, such as renders the unjust man most happy, but the injured and those who are unwilling to do injustice most wretched. And that is tyranny, which takes away the goods of others, both by secret fraud and by open violence, both things sacred and holy, both private and public, and these not by degrees, but all at once. In all particular cases of such crimes, when one committing injustice is not concealed, he is punished and suffers the greatest ignominy. ignom- ignominy. For according to the several kinds of wickedness they commit, they are called sacrilegious, robbers, housebreakers, pilferers, thieves. But when any one, besides these thefts of substance of his citizens, shall steal and enslave the citizens themselves, instead of those ugly names he is instead of those ugly names he is called happy and blessed, not by his citizens alone, but likewise by others, as many as are informed that he hath committed the most consummate wickedness. For such a revile wickedness, revile it not, because they are afraid of doing, but because they are afraid of suffering unjust things. And thus, Socrates, injustice, when in sufficient measure, is both more powerful, more free, and hath more absolute command than justice. And, as I said at the beginning, the advantageous of the more powerful is justice, but injustice is the profit and advantage of oneself. Thrasymachus, having said these things, inclined to go away, like the bath keeper, after he had poured into our ears this rapid and long discourse. These, however, who were present would not suffer him, but forced him to stay and give account of what he had said. I too myself earnestly entreated him, and said, Divine Thrasymachus, after throwing in upon us so strange a discourse, do you intend to go away before you teach us sufficiently, or learn yourself, whether the case be as you say, or otherwise? Do you imagine you attempt to determine a small matter, and not the guide of life by which each of us, being conducted, may lead the most happy life? But I imagine, said Thrasymachus, that this is otherwise. You seem, truly, said I, to care nothing for us, nor to be any way concerned whether we should live well or ill, whilst we are ignorant of what you say you know. But good Thrasymachus, be readily disposed to show it also to us, nor will the favour be ill placed. Whatever you shall bestow on us, many as are of us. And I, for my own part, tell you that I am not persuaded, nor do I think that injustice is more profitable than justice, not although it should be permitted to exert itself, and be no way hindered from doing whatever it should incline. But, good Sir Thrasymachus, let him be unjust, let him be able to unjustly, either in secret or by force, yet not persuade me at least that injustice is more profitable than justice, and probably some other of us here is of the same mind and not single. Convince us, then, blessed Thrasymachus, that we imagine wrong when we value justice more than injustice. But how, said he, shall I convince you? For if I have not convinced you by what I have already said, I have said already, what shall I further do for you? Shall I enter your soul and put my reasoning within you? God forbid, said I, you shall not do that. But first of all, whatever you have said, abide by it. Or if you do, change openly, and do not deceive us. For now you see, Thrasymachus, for let us still consider what is said above, that when you first defined the true physician, you did not afterwards think it needful that the true shepherd should, strictly upon the like principles, keep his flock. But you fancy that as a shepherd he may feed his flock, not regarding what is best for the sheep, but as some glutton who is going to feast on them at some entertainment, or yet to dispose them as a merchant, and not a shepherd. But the shepherd art hath certainly no other care but of that for which it is ordained, to afford it what is best. For its own affairs are already sufficiently provided, so as to be in the very best state, while it needs nothing of the shepherd art. In the same manner, I, at least, imagine that imagine there was a necessity for agreeing with us in this, that every government, in as far as it is government, considers what is best for nothing else but for the governed and those under its charge, both in political and private government. Do you imagine that governors in cities, such as are truly such as are truly govern willingly? Truly, said he. As for that, I not only imagine it, but am quite certain. Why now, said I, Thrasymachus, do you not perceive, as to all other governments, that no one undertakes them willingly, but they ask a reward, as the profit arising from the governing is not to be to themselves, but to the governed? Or tell me this, do not we say that every particular art is in having a distinct power? And now, blessed Thrasymachus, answer not differently from your sentiments, that we may make some progress. In this, said he, it is distinct, and those not each and does not each of them afford us a certain distinct advantage, and not a common one? As the medicinal medicinal affords health, the pilot art preservation in sailing, and the others in like manner. Certainly. And does not the mercenary art afford a reward? For this is its power? Or do you call both the medicinal art and the pilot art one and the same? Or rather, if you will define them accurately as you proposed, the one in piloting recover his health, because sailing agrees with him, you will not the more, on this account, call it the medicinal art? No, indeed, said he, nor will you, I imagine, call the mercenary art the medicinal, the one, in gaining a reward, recover his health. No, indeed. What now? Will you call the medicinal art the mercenary art if one, in performing a cure, gains a reward? No, said he. Have we not acknowledged, then, that there is a distinct advantage of every art? Be it so, said he. What is what is that advantage, then, with which all artists in common are advantaged? It is plain it must be in using something common to all they are advantaged by it. It seems so, said he. Hold me 1 second. Okay. Um, but if it meet not with a reward, what is the artist advantaged by his art? It does not appear it appears so, said he. But does he then no service when he works without reward? I think he does. Is not this then how now evident, Thrasymachus, that no art nor government provideth what is advantageous for itself, but as I said long ago, provides and enjoins what is advantageous for the governed, having in view the profit of the inferior, and not that of the more powerful. And for these reasons, friend Thrasymachus, I likewise said now that no one is willing to govern and undertake to reci- rec- recitify the ills of others, but asks a reward for it, because whoever will perform the art handsomely never acts what is best for himself in ruling according to art, but what is best for the governed. And on this account, it seems, a reward must be given to those who shall be willing to govern, either money, or honor, or punishment, if they will not govern. How say, how say you so, Socrates? Said Glauco. Two of the rewards I understand, but this punishment you speak of, and here you mention it, in place of a reward, I know not. You know not, then? You know not, then, said I, the reward of the best of men, on account of which the most worthy govern, when they consent to govern. Or do you not know that to be ambitious and covetous is both deemed a reproach, and is so? I know, said he. For those reasons, then, said I, good men are not willing to govern, neither for money nor for honor. For they are neither willing to be called mercenary in openly receiving a reward for governing, nor to be called thieves in taking clandestinely from those under their government. As little as little are they willing to govern for honor, for they are not ambitious. Of necessity, then, there must be laid on them a fine, that they may consent to govern, and hence it seems it hath been accounted dishonourable to enter on government willingly, and not by constraint. And the greatest part of the punishment is to be governed by a naughty person, if one himself is not willing to govern. And the good seem to me to govern from a fear of this when they do govern. And then they enter on the they enter on the government, not as on anything good, nor as they are to reap advantage by, but as but as on a necessary task, and finding none better than themselves, nor like them, to entrust with the government. Since it would appear that if there was a city of good men, the contest would be not to be in the government, as at present it is to govern, and hence it would be manifest that he who is indeed the true governor doth govern doth not not a governor doth not aim at his own advantage, but at that of the governed, so that every understanding man would rather choose to be served than to have trouble in serving another. This, therefore, I, for my part, will never yield to Thrasymachus, 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 that justice is the advantage of the more powerful, but this we shall consider afterward. What Thrasymachus says now seems to me of much more importance when he says that the life of the unjust man is better than of the just. You then, Glico, said I, which side do you choose, and which seems to you most agreeable to truth? The life of the just, said he. I, for my part, deem to be the more profitable. Have you heard, said I, how many good things Thrasymachus just now enumerated in the life of the unjust? I heard, said he, but I am not persuaded. Are you willing, then, that we should persuade him, if we be able anyhow to find arguments, that there is no truth in what he says? Why not? Said he. If then, said I, pulling on the other side, we advance argument for argument, how many good things there are in being just, and then again, he on the other side, we shall need a third person to compute the estimate which each shall have said on either side, and likewise need some judges to determine the matter. But if as now, assenting to one another, we consider these things, we shall both judges and pleaders ourselves. We shall be both judges and pleaders ourselves. Certainly, said he. Which way then, said I, do you choose? This way, said he. Just checking the chat if anything is going on there. Nope. Okay. Come then, said I, Thrasymachus, answer us from the beginning. Do you say that complete injustice is more profitable than complete justice? Yes, indeed, I say so, replied he, and the reasons for it I have told. Come now, do you ever affirm anything of this kind concerned them? Sorry. Come now, do you ever affirm any of this kind concerning them? Do you call one of them virtue and the other vice? Why not? Is not then justice virtue and injustice vice? Very likely, said he. Most pleasant Socrates, most pleasant Socrates, after I say that injustice is profitable, but justice is not. What then? The contrary, said he. Is it justice you call vice? No, but I call it altogether genuine simplicity. Do you then call injustice cunning? No, said he, but I call it sagacity. Do the unjust seem to you, Thrasymachus, to be both prudent and good? Such, at least, said he, as are able to do injustice in perfection, such as are able to subject to themselves states and nations. But you probably imagine I speak of those who cut purses. Even such things as these, he said, are profitable if concealed, but such only as I now mention are of any worth. I understand, said I, what you want to say. What you want to say. I understand, said I, what you want to say. But this I have wondered at, that you should deem injustice to be a part of virtue and of wisdom, and justice among their contraries. But I do not deem it altogether so. Your meaning, said I, is now more determined, friend, and it is no longer easy for one to find what to say against it. For if when you had set forth injustice as profitable, you had still allowed it to be vice or ugly, as some others do, we should have had others had something to say, speaking according to the received opinions. But now it is plain you will call it beautiful and powerful, and all those other things you will attribute to it, which we attribute to the just man, since you have dared to class it with virtue and wisdom. You conjure, said he, most true. But however, I must not grudge, said I, to pursue our inquiry so long as I imagine you speak as you think. For to me you plainly seem now, Thrasymachus, not to be in irony, but to speak what you think concerning the truth. What is the difference to you, said he, whether I think so or not, if you do not confute my reasonings? None at all, said I, but endeavor further to answer me this likewise. Does a just man seem to you desirous to have more than another just man? By no means, said he, for otherwise he should not be courteous and simple, as we now suppose him. But what? Will he not desire it in a just action? Not even a just action, said he, but whether would he deem it proper to exceed the unjust man and count it just, or would he not? He would, said he, both count it both count it just and deem it proper, but would not be able for it. That, said I do not ask. But whether a just man would neither deem it proper nor inclined to exceed a just man, but would deem it proper to exceed the unjust. This last, this last, said he, is what he would incline to do. But what would the unjust man do? Would he deem it proper to exceed the just man even in a just action? Why not? Said he. He deems it proper to exceed all others. Will not, then, the unjust man desire to exceed the unjust man likewise, and in an unjust action, and contended that he himself received more than all others? Certainly. Thus we say, thus we say, then, said I, the just man does not desire to exceed one like himself, but one unlike. But the unjust man desires to exceed both one like and one unlike himself. You have spoke, said he, perfectly well. But, but, said I, the unjust man is both wise and good, but the just man is neither. This too, said he, is well said. Is not then, said I. The unjust man like the wise and the good, and the just man unlike? Must he not, said he, be like them, being such an one as we have supposed, and he who is otherwise be unlike them? Excellently. Each of them is indeed such as those he resembleth. What else? Said he. Be it so, Thrasymachus. Call you one musical, and another unmusical? I do. Which of the two you call wise, and which unwise? I call the musical wise, and the unmusical unwise. Is he not good, inasmuch as he is wise, and ill, inasmuch as he is unwise? Yes. And what is to the physician? Is it not the same case, the case the same? The same. Do you imagine, then, most excellent Thrasymachus, that any musician, in tuning a harp, wants to exceed, or deems proper to have more skill than a man who is a musician, with reference to the intention or emanation of the strings? I am not of that opinion. But what say you of exceeding a man who is not a musician? Of necessity, said he will deem it proper to exceed him. And what as to the physician, in presenting a regimen of meats or drinks, does he want to exceed another physician in medical cases? No, indeed, but to exceed one who is no physician? Yes. And as to all science and ignorance, does any one appear to you intelligent who wants to grasp at, or say, more than another intelligent in the art, and not to do the same things in the same affair, which one equally intelligent with himself doth? Probably there is a necessity, said he, it be so. Checking the chat, nothing there, okay. Okay, back to it. I think we will read. I will read this last page, I think. What as to him who is ignorant? Will not he want to exceed the intelligent and the ignorant both alike? Probably. But the intelligent is wise? I say so. And the wise is good? I say so. But the good and the wise will not want to exceed one like himself, but the unlike and the contrary. It seems so, said he. But the evil and the ignorant wants to exceed both one like himself and his opposite? It appears so. Why then, Thrasymachus, said I, the unjust desires to exceed both one unlike and one like himself? Do you not say so? I do, said he. But the just man will not desire to exceed one like himself, but one unlike? Yes. The just man, then, said I, resembles the wise and the good, and the unjust resembles the evil and the ignorant. It appears so. But we acknowledge that each of them was such as that which they resembled. We acknowledged so indeed. We acknowledge so indeed. The just man, then, hath appeared to us to be good and wise, and the unjust to be ignorant and ill. Thrasymachus now confessed all these things, not easily, as I now narrate them, but and dragged and with difficulty, a pr prodigious sweat, it being now summer season. And I then saw, but never before, Thrasymachus blush. I think we will finish over there and we will continue tomorrow or day after. I'm not sure about tomorrow, but the day after I think it would be good. But yeah, page 30, so we've read around 16 pages. That's that's more than the last one, so that's good. Yeah. Okay, well, leave a message in the chat if you want. Say anything if you would like to. Um, before we finish here. Two people watching right now, so actually one of them is just me. But yeah. Um, we are finished now. And yeah, leave a message in chat if you would like to. If no one does, then well then ciao ciao. See ya tomorrow or day after, and I will tomorrow or maybe today, I'm not sure, upload on my other channel, the Jati the Great, something extremely funny. Like so extreme. So funnily extremely. But yeah. 4 people watching right now. Well, you're late, everybody. Why are you so late? Man. Well, leave a message in chat if you'd like. I'm going to leave now. Yeah. Okay. Bye bye. See you next time.